It's like surfing. Your mind is quiet. And when you stand up on a wave, it's the spontaneous unknowing to a constant action. It's instinct. It's like killing. There's no thinking, just instinct. It's fast, no bang. That spontaneous unknowing becomes clear at night. No act goes unnoticed when it comes to killing.
I think I know what the truth is. What isn't? What's an illusion?
I got into the Army during the Gulf War. We didn't finish the job. I'm here to finish. Vietnam taught us to fight in the jungles. Iraq is teaching us to fight in the desert.
Stepdad. He's an Air Force prick. Some bitch was mean.
It shouldn't be on-the-job training. It's not right by these kids. This isn't a goddamn job at Starbucks. This war requires an understanding the art of urban terrorism, spotting improvised exploding devices, and understanding the mentality of a suicide bomber.
This one time I was about 9 years old. We were on a road trip. And I had to take a pee.
I love this country. I love my family. I loved God. Primarily, I love the Corps.
I lost my job and I didn't have any more money to pay my bills. Then I didn't want to ask my parents for any more money because they just consider me weak for asking and a failure for not having a man any longer.
Mickey finally pulled over. Follows me out to the woods. Grabs a stick out of the tree. He starts whacking the shit out of me in the back of my legs while I was peeing. Oh, fucking pee going everywhere.
So I wanted to kill somebody. And who better than some twisted Iraqi who's hell-bent on repressing women? So I went and pissed off.
I was 17. I whooped his ass for doing the same thing to my little brother. Whooped his ass a little too good, though. The judge, he said either you go to the pen for manslaughter or you sign up.
After I arrived in Iraq, I wasn't pissed off anymore. I realized that wanting to kill people because you're pissed off, it just isn't a good enough reason.
My dad went to West Point, quit, became a fireman, saved hundreds of lives. I go to West Point, don't quit, take lives.
My uncle came out of West Point in the 80s. My father, the Naval Academy in the 60s. Hell, it was hard to know who to root for during the Army-Navy game in my house.
It's good men, willing to do violence on our behalf to preserve our freedom. That's what it's about.
I mean, the military's been good to us, you know. Gave my family discipline, gave us an education. You know, I'm proud to serve my country.
I have a recruit. Her name's Dee, just out of high school. 19 now. She was 18 when she joined us. Looks 14, 5 foot nothing. Maybe about 100 pounds soaking wet. She is tough, hungry, and ready to die. I'm supposed to send her out there to hunt Osama's and Saddam's relatives?
They didn't issue me a flak jacket.
Bush thinks that they need a democracy over there because, as Kant observed in 1860, that democracies don't fight each other.
They told us that it would add too much weight to the plane.
George W., tell us that then. See, if we as a people can afford the cost of such an endeavor, let's all get on the same page and understand that we have entered into a 20-year war with 10 years of terrorist blowback tagged on.
So B gave me his.
My dad died 2 months ago. Stroke. They let me go home for the funeral. Got to see my beautiful wife. My son. God, he's already so smart. He was 10 months old already.
If we want to win this war, great. Let's stop messing around. First, we need to send more security to central Iraq. Second, we need to secure the Iraqi borders. And pay special attention to Syria because any Yahoo with the need to kill Americans can just come through their borders. Third, we don't have enough troops to disrupt the insurgent supply lines along the Euphrates River along the Syrian border. Fourth, we need to reinstate the draft. Get more troops. We need more goddamn troops to get this done right, or we should just get out now.
I was on a recon mission with M and B.
Bonded with some really good people over there. A's a really special person. She comes from a really nice family. Nice, generous. She's always doing things for other people all the time. Probably the reason she's without somebody now.
Abu Ghraib is a motivational training ground where if you weren't terrorists going in, you were one coming out. I spent time there. I watched female interpreters shout profanities at Iraqi men as they stood there naked. I mean, if I'm driven to some hasty action because of my own silly struggle, what kind of action are these hardened, angry young men going to take against a world who's challenging their ancient way of life with humiliation and forced occupation? Maybe angry enough to fly another fucking plane through another building. I mean, what's the final death tally of those 9/11 planes through those 9/11 buildings gonna be?
She's like a sister to me. We always talk about how evil and vindictive people are in the world. Like the time when S&D hooked up. Those guys. S&D hooked up, and then S got mad because D was hooking up all over camp. We laughed. It wasn't funny, but we laughed. Actually, it was funny.
B. He called me a kid. Actually, he called me the kid. He said that I looked like I was 14. Always asked to see my ID.
How many more terrorists are we gonna create by pissing them off?
I got my first kill. 17-year-old Iraqi.
Iraq, besides its, politics, it's a really pretty place. Mountains. I befriended a young Iraqi girl there named Megan. She wants to know about Britney Spears and I presume freedoms. She wanted to be more like us. And I thought, I want to be like you, happy, full of hope, surrounded by such fucking misery.
I'd never been with a man. And I didn't want to die a Virginian.
Being a female in this army, you were either considered a bitch or a slut. You were a bitch if you didn't succumb to the onslaught of come-ons, and a slut if you did. I was a bitch who wanted to be a slut. My friend Dee, she was a slut. A 19-year-old from New Jersey who had no problem taking advantage of her newfound popularity. A queen every day when you're here is what it's like. I mean, if you were a 3 in the States, you were a 9 over here, if you get my drift. Dee, she was a 2. Upgraded to an 8. I yearned for contact of any kind. There was these, dogs that would wander into camp, which I would feed. My pooch Liberty was waiting for me at home. I loved men.
And there were plenty of them. All supporting raging hard-ons 24/7. No better way to pass time than just forget for a second. My mom died 2 years ago. I was 11 years old and when she first got sick. We fought through it. We fought through it together. For 5 more years, we fought through it together. And when she died, I wasn't done fighting. Cancer and insurgency seemed like familiar foes at the time. The Iraqis were the cancer that killed my mom. It was fucking easy to pull that trigger. But my mom was strong. And she stared her last moment in the face with courage. You know, I think these people are gonna be like my mom. Strong. And face the last moment with courage and conviction. Cancer kills the very thing that it lives off of. We have invaded without foresight. If Iraq's culture ceases to exist, a part of us will perish with it.
B was a good man. He liked to surf. I met B a few years back in June.
S is an interesting guy. Yeah. We bonded in Pamplona, Spain.
One morning, out of nowhere, he comes and picks me up out of the street. I was still drunk. Puts me right in the back of the line, right where the bulls come out. He's like, "Are you ready?" I'm like, "All right, fuck yeah, I'm ready." Horn goes off, bulls come charging out. We start running. Fuck it, they're right here, right on my hip. 40 tons of bull. People are dropping all around us. It's like a goddamn war zone. I end up, I fucking slip. As we're running, the bulls are right there. I slip. I slide face first onto the cobblestone street. I know I'm done. You know, I'm smiling. Then all of a sudden, I feel these two hands grab my shoulders. That crazy son of a bitch came back for me. 40 tons of bull coming at him. Wasn't too much longer, we were doing the same thing, but we were dodging bullets and bombs. Just a matter of time for one of them got us.
He has the same sicko sense of humor as I have, you know. For fun, we would stuff military fatigues with paper and rocks and then take the dummy American soldier and throw him into the road to see what would happen. And our friendly Iraqis would drive up and run over the dummy, spin their tires, back up, spin their tires again, screaming and yelling, "Hello, Akbar! Hello, Akbar!" Fucking screaming all the time. The screaming. It's just a reminder who we were dealing with and stay awake. I mean, anything we could do to stay awake, man. To stay sane. To stay on top of things.
We were on the main road leading into Fallujah. And it was the week they were supposed to vote on their constitution, so shit was getting pretty tense. I mean, the mortar attacks and the car bombs was picking up a lot, so everybody was a little uncomfortable. And I had B out on the front. He was on point stopping the vehicles, and then D would run the mirror around the undercarriage checking for IEDs and weapons, people, anything suspicious. And then S would check IDs, ask some questions. Then myself, A, and W would be up top, kind of covering them. And it was my job to oversee the whole operation, so I was trying to make sure everybody was on their job and cool.
A lot of us didn't even have proper equipment. I gave Dee my flak jacket because they didn't issue her one. She was a kid. Our Humvees needed reinforcing. It just amazes me that the government is still allowing this to happen.
Dee'd been laid twice already. I fed my adopted dog and had a pot full of crap coffee.
That last day, I was checking the undercarriage of the vehicles. And S helped me forget for a moment, along with a quick run-in with W. About an hour or two later, So I was relatively happy.
I stood there, waiting for whatever with my team, who I respected and trusted with my life. This sergeant, he was good. He had great instincts and he cared. You know, he led by example. He had a deep understanding as to what the fuck we were doing here, and that helps us to stay alive.
That last car. It looked clean. Except for that lower trunk area. It looked like it was sinking. God, there must have been about 200 pounds of explosives in there to make it sink like that.
Boom. You just feel this great concussion, and it's like your ears feel like they just popped off. And then it was just bright light everywhere. And then it was quiet. Totally quiet. I've never heard that kind of quiet in my life.
I heard S been called by B, and B told him to move. So I looked over at S, and I looked over at B, and we caught a glimpse of each other for a moment. And a fraction of a second later, I had been hurled through the air, very much alive.
When that bomb went off, I had a month left. 30 days of a 2-year run.
That last day, it was so random. I stopped every car. At around 2:30, the car pulls up with an Iraqi woman inside. She's looking right at me. Our eyes lock. And I knew the game was up. I start running to the front, yelling to S to move, man. Move. Then, peace and dark.
Anyway, next thing I remember was 2 months later, I was in the hospital in Germany. And that's where I died.
And I'm standing outside of my own body, looking at the carnage. My body's burning. The compression blew the grill of the car through my abdomen, nearly splitting me in two. S had been blown 20 feet in some barbed wire. Convulsing, gasping for his last breath. D, she's blown backwards through the hood of a car, killing an Iraqi man instantly. Well, she must have broke her neck on impact, because she was laying there unburned and looked as almost like she was sleeping peacefully. A was gone. They were all gone.
The military sent my wife a letter saying I was AWOL because my paperwork was fucked up in Washington. Go figure. So they stopped sending my checks to the house.
Reality is a prerequisite for action. If we want change, we have to suck it up. If we hadn't entered this war, we would be screaming human rights. Fine, human rights as it is, but not without human suffering and a whole hell of a lot of sacrifice.
And finally, after about another month, the military shows up. These 2 officers come to the house and tell her I'm dead. And she wasn't having it. She didn't even believe them. She told them to get the fuck off our property, and they was lying, and they just didn't want to pay us our money. She's feisty. That's what I love about her. She wasn't having it. Then after they left, she broke down, though. She knew. She knew I wasn't coming back.
Change is a bear in global politics. Lots of people die. Understand this. Read your history.
She gets a bill from the hospital in Germany. The hospital where your husband died sends you a bill. The military hospital that couldn't save him. Talk about the icing on the fucking cake, huh? So then the bills piled up a little more, and finally the bank they foreclosed on our house. My wife and sons were my wife and my sons had to move into a shelter. I could just hear my son saying, "Mommy, when is Daddy coming back? And how's he gonna know where to find us?" We bought that house together.
In vain. In goddamn vain. Everyone who has been lost. M, S, A, B, and D. The 3,600 World Trade lives. The 2,200 of my brothers in arms who have lost their lives, along with the 16,000 wounded and the 10,000 Iraqis who have lost their lives, along with the hundreds of millions who are living in fear, will all be in vain if we do not finish.
And that Iraqi boy that I killed? I hope he forgives me.
My best moment was in the Keys. Swimming in the warm water with a dolphin who seemed to like me.
I would have loved him too.
Killing people because you're pissed off is a mistake.
I love this country. I love my family. And I loved God. But primarily I loved the Corps.
My dad, if he'd have seen my son, he'd have seen me. He'd have seen me and my son. He'd have been happy to know that payback was coming for all those horrible things I did as a child. I look him up. That's how it works. My son will miss me. Those two little teeth. The smile. The baby pats on the back. Kind of reassuring me that his son's going to grow up. What are we really doing over here?
The ocean, fall, being able to wear my old t-shirts, playing poker, drinking beer, ordering Indian food with my wife. And being there for my little brothers.